Hey guys, so for this week's project, I'm starting out with something small and simple, an end grain cutting board. So I'll show you all the tools I use to make it and we'll get it put together. Check this out. So to get started, I just wanted to lay out all my wood and just take a look at it. Um, the majority of this is going to be made out of the walnut there, that's in the middle, and then I've got some other pieces for some highlights. You can see that piece on the end, that's purple heart, so I think it'll bring out a little bit of the color in it. But I realized right at the beginning, I'm going to need something that cuts these boards straight. The way they're set up now, the edges aren't straight, so we really can't get started with the project until we get these milled down a bit. I don't have a joiner yet, but that's soon to come. So, and with that straight edge guide, I'll show you a little bit more in detail exactly how that needs to go as it rides along the fence to cut these edges straight. But right there, you notice that pause. Realize the bottoms of these aren't straight either, so it won't line up to cut these flush. So before we get started, let's bring out the handy dandy crosscut sled and we'll get those edges trimmed up. Good thing that thing's not too heavy, huh? I don't have to lug that around too often. So coming up right here, you can see a close-up of that straight edge guide that I made. And I also notice as I reach for this cold refreshing beverage, that's a lot of blade sticking up right there. I don't really want my fingers that close to that, even though I'm just trimming these up. So added this toggle clamp to hold it down, because of course all parts of this needs to be safe at all times. My wife really wouldn't appreciate something happening. I should probably sell all my stuff though. I don't want that. So here's what that looks like a bit up close. You can see how this works. All right, you get the gist of it. So let's get this wood cut, get all the rest of these boards trimmed up so we can get on this project and get these into the planer. All right, now that we've got the one side somewhat flat, now we can use the planer to get the other side to be parallel to the side we just cut. So just make it quick, get all the boards trimmed down and start some glue up. All right, now that everything is all trued up, they're cut to the same size for the most part, we can get this glued up. So with some parallel clamps, should be able to do both of these boards. I don't have any of those quite yet. They're a little pricey, about $50 for one. But these clamps I have here will do the job for size cutting board. It's pretty small. We'll go ahead and get it glued up, and I won't take a bunch of time on it, but it's pretty quick and easy. One thing I want to call out here is you want to use the Titebond 3, as that one is the waterproof glue, and it's also the food safe stuff. So Use that if you're going to make a cutting board, and you should be good to go. So nothing too complicated here. You just really want to spread your glue out real evenly. So you don't want to have any gaps or spaces where the glue's not there. So pretty cut and dry here. So from here, as you're getting your glue up going, you really just want to keep all of the boards as flat as possible. Again, those parallel clamps would have came in handy, but you want to keep this flat as possible as you're gluing it up and, you know, tightening it all up. So that way later on you don't have to do as much planing and scraping or anything else, trimming once it's done. So once it goes from this edge grain, to the end grain that we're going to make it, you can't use the planer. So it's really important to keep it as flat as possible once you're doing your glue up. And notice I just got a little bucket of water. It really helps with a lot of the cleanup. You want to get a lot of that squeeze out off now, instead of trying to wait later to get it off when it gets hard, and then a long time of scraping and cleaning just to get the glue off. And I don't feel like doing that. This is just easier to get it done at this point. So the whole process that you saw with the glue up and doing is the same for making it into an end grain board. You'll just do the same cuts across this board once it's all glued up and, you know, done, dry, and then glue it up with the edge on the top instead. And then comes the fun part. A little sanding here, a little sanding there, a little more sanding, and well, you get the point. It's going to be a lot of sanding, so get comfortable. And in case you're wondering, I started out with some pretty aggressive sandpaper grit here. I started out with the 80, went up to 120, 220, all the way up to, and finally got to this part. Of course, making the juice groove with the router. So as you can see, I made this jig here so that the router base would ride along the outside to keep it the exact distance away from the edge. So not bad, although I tipped it just a bit right there. You can see it caused a little bit of burnout, but you can sand that out, no problem. So the conditioner I went with, picked it up at the local big box store. It's a mineral spirits and beeswax combination for butcher blocks and cutting boards. It's food safe, of course. And yes, I made 2 boards. The smaller one here is for my wife, and appreciate that she supports all the woodworking things that I do. And the larger one, I'm going to send that one out to Nebraska for my mother-in-law. She's very supportive as well, so I really wanted to show her something or give her something to show her how much I appreciate her support. So thank you.